You're listening to the Coop Homeschool Podcast.
This is your podcast for community, humility, and joyful fun in homeschooling. I'm Mandy.
I'm Jessica.
And this is
The Coop. It's time to talk summer reading.
Fun!
Yep, if you haven't made your list, we're going to talk about ours, and hopefully we'll inspire you to add a few new titles to your summer reading.
Awesome.
Yeah, but before we get started, let's get some scoop on the Coop, Mandy. What you got?
Well, I think we have a shared one, don't we?
do. Yes. Go ahead.
Our girls are going to be in a talent show together.
Yeah, super fun.
They're going to be doing the ukulele, and they're going to be on stage, and it's at my church.
Yep, they wrote an original song for it.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's a worship song,
Yeah,
which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, they did the words and the chords.
Yes.
And they've been practicing.
Mm-hmm. And then you took them shopping and they picked out matching outfits.
Yeah, Costco. You know, every girl's dream shopping spree.
Luckily, they're 9 and know no different. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's like where my daughter wanted to go.
You're right. She already knew.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah. Yours knew. And mine's like, yeah, sure. And
yeah, whatever.
She came home with those colors. I'm like, you like those colors? Oh, yeah, we like these colors.
Yeah.
And it was very a collective we. You know?
It wasn't actually the first thing she picked. And then Ruby picked the one that they got.
Okay.
And then your daughter said, well, yeah, I like that one too. And so that's what they went with.
It's cute.
Yeah.
Very cute. Yeah. So it's going to be sweet. We'll probably post updates about that as well and keep you apprised of how the talent
We'll
show
probably write a
goes.
whole blog about it. The joys of a
Probably.
talent show.
Yeah, we'll see. There might be drama.
Yeah, who knows? So far, it's been great.
Right. So far, they're having a blast, which is what I hope it's about, you know, and I hope they continue to have fun. But
And I love what a talent show can do for you.
yeah.
And that whether it's, you know, via Zoom, because we did a virtual talent show last
Yes.
year, just getting up and performing kind of helps with that social anxiety and fear of people. What's that fear called when you get up in front of people and you're afraid?
Anxiety.
Yeah, it just helps develop that skill.
Right.
I remember I used to have that fear, and then I became a teacher.
Right.
And I used to have a fear of praying in front of people.
Oh, yeah.
And then because I was teaching at a Christian school, I actually had to pray. I got to pray at the beginning of each period. And then it just became normal. And then once I was done teaching at a Christian school and was not doing that anymore, years into it, then I was like nervous to pray again in front of people. So it's just a funny thing that happens when you get out of the routine of being in front of people for whatever reason.
Totally.
That fear and anxiety comes right back. It's really weird.
That's crazy. Yeah. All right. So let's talk summer reading. The fun thing about this podcast coming up on a year is that we did a summer reading podcast last year. And that's episode 5. And we each shared 3 books that we were either in the middle of or hoping to read. And so I thought it would be fun to start with a little recap.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. What did you choose last
Well,
year?
I did The Brave Learner.
Yes, you did.
And I'd already started reading it, and it had all these wonderful things to say about it. And then we actually finished reading it at the same time.
Right.
I didn't actually finish it during summer. It took me all the way through, fall?
Right.
Into
But
winter.
it was part of your summer reading.
Yeah, it was. And I love that book.
Yeah.
And there's a blog about it that we'll link on our show notes. But it's inspiring for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's where the term us-schooling, I was first exposed to that. And
Right.
I've been using that
Right.
since.
We even have a podcast. We reviewed the whole book in a podcast.
Yeah, that's right. The other book that I did read was Raising Sons to Be Men by Rhonda Stoppy. And I had heard her at a conference, and a homeschool conference, and about just, you know, breathing life and light into your son's life as he gets older, and being a model and an example. And I don't know that I loved that book.
Okay.
I think I don't like as many anecdotes. So when a book has a lot of
sure.
anecdotes, I kind of skim it. But I think it's still helpful for people who are interested in hearing from a woman who raised sons. And she's a pastor's wife and speaks at a lot of homeschool conferences. And I follow her on Instagram. And the third book was Quiet by Susan Cain.
Yeah.
And if you know me at all, you know I won't read a book that's over like an inch or an inch and a half. And this book is like I don't know, 2.5 inches.
Yeah.
I was just pointed at one of Jessica's books. Yeah. It's too thick.
Right,
And
it's too much.
And the text was so tiny.
Right, minute.
Yeah, it was, and there's no space, not very much space in between the lines. So I didn't get that far, even though I still reference it sometimes. There was so much good stuff in there. But I kept it. I mean, I'll probably dive into it every once in a while, read a couple pages here and there.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So listen to that episode if you're interested in those books.
Yes. So on my list last year, I had 12 Rules for Life by Dr. Jordan Peterson, which I did finish and I thoroughly loved. And I just found out he has a sequel to that. 12 more rules or something like that. So it's going on my list. Maybe not for summer, but for eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And then Free to Learn by Dr. Peter Gray, which I love and I still use as a reference book. We talk about that book on here and we mention Peter Gray all the time. But I really loved that one. That was a really good one for me to read last year, as my daughter's getting older, to not be too worried about giving in to the pressure of education and that it's a one-size-fits-all model, because it's not. And so Free to Learn is just a super helpful book for that. And then the final one was Dumbing Us Down by John Taylor Gatto. Yeah. I liked that one. I did finish that one. That was a nice short, that's a 1/4 incher. So it's a really short,
maybe I'll read that one then.
I'll give it to you next.
I always like Gatto's quotes. When you look at homeschooling quotes, the ones that I am really provoked by.
It's very provocative.
Yeah, it's really fun. And he was the one who used to be a public school teacher, wasn't he? Yeah. And so he has a lot to say about that and his experience in it. But
the institution of school.
And coming out of that.
He's the one who likens it to prisons often.
Yeah. Like Hocus Pocus, the movie. Yeah.
Right. So before we dig into this year's, I just wanted to talk a little bit about reading in general, because I know a lot of moms feel like they want to read and it's hard to find time, and it really is. And I've shared before some of my tools because I think when my daughter was 3 or 4, I suddenly realized I hadn't been reading. And it made me feel sad, because I used to treat myself to a book a week when I was a single gal working, and living alone. That would be my Friday activity. It would be to go to Borders and buy a new book. And I'd just pick whatever I wanted off the shelf. That was before the days of digital book lists and things. Yeah.
I know. It's so fun to go to a bookstore.
Yes, I love it. So these days, I don't really read hard copy books very often, because the times that I have to read, I'm usually in the dark.
Yeah.
My husband doesn't read books as well, so usually in the evenings the house is darker, which is fine. And I could certainly turn on a light to read by, but it's just easier not to. And I found that I read more when I have my electronic reading. So I have both a Kindle reader and I have the Kindle app on my phone, and I find I read a lot that way. And then just in the past 2 years, audiobooks have just been my go-to.
Yeah, totally.
And so I bought, actually it was a gift from my husband. He bought me Bluetooth earbuds.
Oh, yeah.
And I only keep one in. So I always have the other one charging and I just use one. That way I'm still listening for the children. I'm never completely unplugged. And then I just rotate which earbud I'm using.
It's so funny you said unplugged. But it's unplugged from the kids, not from
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I'm wireless, not unplugged.
Yeah.
So I have the earbuds, and I find that doing the dishes, I can be reading. And it's such a valuable thing. I mean, I could be listening to podcasts and doing other really great things as well, taking in information, but I just like books, so as much as I love listening to podcasts, I can only do so much of that. And so the books are really fun for me.
Yeah.
And so then last year on Goodreads, if you're not a member of Goodread, but you like books and you like tracking your reading, I recommend joining the Goodreads program. And I have a whole book list, and I've been on there for 10 years.
That's
I mean,
so
as long
cool.
as Facebook, really.
Yeah.
And so I have a whole profile on there. I'll link my profile in the show notes so you can follow me and see what I'm reading. But on the Kindle app, as soon as you start a new book, it automatically links to your Goodreads and will share that you started a new book.
Oh, fun.
And so it automatically logs what you're reading. Audible doesn't do that, I don't think. But I manually go in and add my books. And then last year in January, it gave me the option to set a book goal for the year.
Oh, I love that.
And I was nervous because I hate making goals. We talked about this in the previous episode. I hate making goals and saying them because then it's a lot of pressure to live up to it. And I feel like I failed if I don't accomplish it.
Yeah, I didn't know you had that goal that whole year.
Right.
You'd think it would have come up at some point.
Right, no. So I made the goal for 2020 to read 50 books. And I was nervous because that's a book a week.
Yeah.
And I was nervous. But you know what? I included The Mouse and the Motorcycle. I included the read aloud books that I read with my daughter. Chapter books. I haven't included picture books. And then I started reading. I reread Harry Potter last year. I reread some of my favorites. So I like to mix up what I read. So I read mostly historical fiction. And then I do like some fantasy, and I like nonfiction. So then I have my nonfiction books mixed in there as well. And then it's been a goal of mine for the last 5 years to add in classics that I haven't read yet. So a couple years ago, it was Pride and Prejudice. I had never read a Jane Austen book. And I thought I probably should.
Yeah.
So I did. And then
That's a good one to do.
It's a good one. It's not my favorite.
Oh.
I'm a Bronte fan.
Oh,
not
yeah,
an Austen
totally.
fan,
You like the depressing darkness.
tragedies.
That's what I
romantic
like.
tragedies.
Yeah, that's what I like. Yeah.
So, yeah, way more of a Wuthering Heights, Jane Eyre kind of gal. But I also was mixing in, I tried to read Othello. That was a little too hard.
I read that just a couple of years ago.
Nice.
They were showing it at the Globe.
Oh, right.
And so then we went and did that. It was actually for our friend's birthday, and they sent us all the book.
That's fun.
And then we read it, and
Right.
then we went to the Globe and ate at the nice restaurant there, and it was fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I like putting those books on there, but I'm also okay when I pick it up, if it's just not the right time in my life to read it, that's okay. You know, it's still a classic. Shakespeare will be there forever.
You read, was it Brave New World? I was dying to have you read.
I think 2019, I had already planned to read 1984 and Fahrenheit 451, and then Brave New World was on the list. But I don't know if we had talked about it before I had set those goals. And so that was the last one. And so by the time you knew it was on my list, you're like, come on. you know, you were ready to talk about it.
Well,
and
I just bought Animal Farm
I read
in
that
1984.
one. I think I did Animal Farm in 2020. So that was one of my 50. So by the end of the year, I ended up reading 62 books.
Oh, yeah. That's
so
awesome.
I exceeded my total, and that was
job.
Fun. Yeah. And so I decided not to rock the boat. And I set the same goal for this year.
Yeah,
because 50 is plenty.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and so Goodreads will tell me that I'm already ahead of schedule.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'm 8 books, I think, at this point, ahead of schedule. It keeps my challenge right here. So I've read 24 of 50 books.
Oh, yeah.
9 books ahead of schedule. I'm 48% complete with my goal for the year. And then you can look up your past challenge. So I do like that you can have this reading challenge. So if you're doing a challenge, come friend me on Goodreads and follow me. What's taking up a lot of my time, so I'm glad I'm ahead, is I've been reading the Outlander books this year and last year. Talk about big books. I haven't held one physically, but I'm pretty sure, because they're between 32 and 42 hours to listen to. I would say the average book I listen to is between 8 and 13.
Yeah.
For reference, Fellowship of the Rings is 24.
Yeah. And how many inches is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't picked it up.
It's probably that many inches. It's
I'm sure it's at least 400 to 500 pages. And so Outlander has to be more in the 700 to 900 page range.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Who is this writer?
Diana Gabaldon.
Yeah.
She's
still writing.
So, okay, full disclosure here. I guess I can't say I'm not an Outlander fan. I guess I have to just fangirl hard.
What? Yeah,
I know, but I try to deny it. Like, oh, it's fine, but I like it. But I'm also such a sucker for historical fiction, and so they're in the Revolution right now.
The Battle of McCulloch or whatever it was.
I'm reading. Which book am I reading? I'm reading book. 8, I think, of Outlander. So I'm on book 8 already. So you can imagine how many hours of reading that is.
That's crazy.
And
that should count. Each book should count as a couple books.
So what's fun is I realized at the end of the year, it tells me how many pages I read.
Cool.
So it counts the audiobooks. Well, it counts it as the regular book. It doesn't matter. So it'll tell you how many pages you read. So even though my book count was lower than the average page size of a book, the page count was huge because of these Outlander books. But anyway, I was saying that I just read the Outlandish Companion.
Oh my word.
Which is the companion guide.
Who are you?
I know who I become. I read the Outlandish Companion, which is the guide to the first 4 books, and now she has more Outlandish companions for the next 4 books. But it was really fun because it's not just a summary of those books, which is a great helpful recap, but it also gave some insight into her process. And so she's a fascinating woman. She had a career in technical writing. She has multiple degrees. She's this really cool person, then decided to make it a goal to write a book. And to test out her writing skills, she came up with Outlander.
That's amazing.
And then to talk about how
she's
she
just
writes.
really into is it Scottish?
Not necessarily. That's just what happened. And then she rolled with it. So it was really cool to kind of just hear her background and all that stuff. So anyway, all that to say, I'm still reading out more Outlander.
That's awesome.
I don't know when I'll stop.
See, I could go on and on about dystopian books.
Right.
What was that book that you loaned to me and they were clones?
Never Let Me Go.
Yeah, that was really good.
I love that one by the Japanese author. I can't think of his name, but I love that one.
What's so actually sad is I read that one book about North Korea. What was the name of that? I'll link it in the podcast. And it's true. It was written by a journalist, but it just felt like a dystopian novel.
Right.
Because
it's so unreal.
The life is so unreal in North Korea.
Yeah.
To this day.
Right. So I do love me a good dystopian novel.
Yeah.
But now that I've read the classics, the classic dystopian novels, reading the newer ones, you can see so much of the inspiration and the variation. I mean, don't get me wrong. I just reread Hunger Games last year too.
Oh, yeah, I need to read that.
Oh, yeah. Well, they came out with the prequel.
Oh, yeah.
And so I reread them because of the prequel.
Should I read the prequel first?
Yes. Well, you've read the old one?
I haven't read any of them,
okay.
But I've seen all the movies.
Well, I would recommend reading the Hunger Games first.
Okay.
The prequel is definitely set up to be read afterwards just because of the difference in the character change, the overarching change in character. And it's written better.
Yeah, okay.
So when I reread The Hunger Games, I was actually disappointed that I felt like it was poorly written.
Oh, funny.
In comparison, at least, to the prequel, which
so
was
the
written
author
several years
refined
later.
Her craft or his craft.
Or she gave it a different voice because the story, the narrator is different. So Hunger Games is told in first person by the main character, I believe. And so you're talking about a teenage girl's voice. Mm-hmm. And so then the contrast of the two books being told by different, or the prequel and the Hunger Games series, I can't tell if it was the voice that was telling the story that was so different, or if the author had really kind of refined and changed her writing style. I'm not sure.
Well, I always love to find out what happened, of how something got that way. So you already know, like Handmaid's Tale, we already know how it is.
Right.
And so the show, what was fun about the show is they would go back in time.
Right.
And show you how it got that way.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't the author's doing. Exactly. It was still fun to see.
So I didn't watch the show, but I did read Handmaid's Tale. And then I just saw that The Testaments is out. And so I just borrowed that as well.
Oh, yeah.
So
we should read it.
I have a huge long list of books to read. Well, I'm reading Outlander right now.
Oh, okay.
but I do have The Testaments for when I'm done.
Okay.
So I have it ready to go. But yes, let's read it.
Yeah,
get the audio. Okay. Let's dive into this year's summer reading. Do you want to choose your first book?
Yeah. So I just bought it, Mother and Son, The Respect Effect by Emerson Eggerichs, PhD. And it's a Christian author. And I saw a friend on Facebook post this, said, if you have a son, every mother who has a son has to read this.
Okay.
And I'm going to read something that I just looked up today. Oh gosh. I haven't worn this in ages, so there might be dust on it. Because I wasn't doing this with the other shirt.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to read this. What they found in research is that if men were forced to choose between feeling alone and unloved in the world or feeling inadequate and disrespected, 74% would rather give up love if they could keep respect, with just 26% saying they'd rather give up respect in order to be loved. And so he goes into how important respect is for a man, and that man is inside your son.
Yeah.
So I thought that was
that's
a neat thing to learn as a mom. And so I'm excited to see what it teaches me.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I don't know much about boys.
Yeah.
I never had a brother.
Right.
You know, I'm just married to one. But there was a quote in here. His wife said if she had known about this when her kids were little, she would have been a totally different mother.
Wow.
And I want to know it now. So I'm excited to read this. Yeah.
Awesome. My first book is 1944 by J. Wink. And this one made my list because last year I ended up getting so excited about Hamilton, being available on Disney Plus, the musical Hamilton, and then getting so excited about learning more about that time period because I'm a huge World War II historical fiction fan, but I've never really gone back that far to the Revolution time period, and so I was curious about it. And then it got me started reading. I read a George Washington biography, and then I read The American Story, which is a collection of different historical biography authors or biographers, and they came to talk about the Revolutionary time period and these different important, well, it wasn't even specifically a revolution, but it was about America and these very influential people, presidents and others, or the president's wives sometimes, and it was just fascinating to listen to, and I ended up recommending it to your husband.
Oh, okay.
And he read it, and then we talked about it when we were camping.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, your husband and I like to talk books. And so that led to me hearing these other authors talk about their books when they talked about these historical people.
Cool.
So J. Wink was one of them. And so this is 1944, FDR, and the Year That Changed History. So this is really exciting. I'm really excited to dig in because this is my favorite time period.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to read this and kind of just hear that perspective and learn more about FDR because I don't really know much about him.
Yeah.
I know all the surface level things that most people know.
I really don't know anything about any historical figure, I have to say.
I loved my George Washington biography. I loved reading it.
That's so cool.
I was fascinated. And now in Outlander, in book 8, Jamie Fraser just spoke to George Washington.
Oh my goodness. Is this Magic Treehouse or what?
Right? So we spun in our treehouse, and there we are in the Revolution. So it's just super fascinating to me, and I love it. And I imagine Diana Gabaldon, the author of Outlander, probably read books like that, or at least referenced them to be able to represent George Washington accurately.
I think she read Magic Treehouse as well, because this is just an adult version of it.
That's true, but they don't ever get back. So, well, that's not true.
Well,
either,
you don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, so so that's my first book for the summer.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, my next book is actually one I've already read, but I have no memory of most of it. And it's Smart Money, Smart Kids. And normally I would not read a book again because I can just look at all my underlines.
Full of it. Uh-huh.
But since I talked about this in our planning our year, that we're going to do money in a major way with them.
Right.
I'm going to read it again and actually take notes on my laptop of things that I want to make sure I do with them.
Right.
Because they even have jobs for little kids, picking up toys, putting dirty clothes in the laundry basket, making his or her own bed, those kinds of things. And then they have a list of like contributions the kids can make. They have, jobs for older kids and tweens, vacuuming, sweeping, and then as they get older, babysitting, walking dogs. And so they have practical lists that I would like to utilize. And it's written by Dave Ramsey and his daughter.
Perfect.
Who's grown. So she's able to talk about things that they did. And there's some assignments, and there's like slave to the lender, talking about debt and things like that. And so if I do get those, or I plan to get those Dave Ramsey, those 6 books for kids, then I have the knowledge to actually walk them through it and talk about it. And I love content building books for my brain, just like the 1944 book. You're content building, and you're going to have that information available to you that you can tap into when you get to the 1940s. You'll be and it's just helpful to build that information in your head. Talk about saving for college. They also talk about saving for a car in here and investing and things like that. So I'm excited to actually go through it and make actual notes, not just my underlines, and figure out how to incorporate them into our school year.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right. My next one's a big one. I know it's on your list too.
Oh yeah, totally.
Charter Schools and Their Enemies by Thomas Sowell, who is a well-known economist. And he's an African-American economist, and he talks about charter schools and what they bring to helping level the educational playing field in different socioeconomic areas. And so charter schools allow for school choice in areas where there isn't any.
Right.
In a lot of affluent areas, parents can choose to take their kids to the school down the street or to the better one across town, because most of the time they have the means to get them there and get them home and all of these things. So anyway, he talks a lot about that. I love that he's an economist. That's my background. That's my, that was what I studied in college. And so I love hearing how he thinks and how he talks about things. And then essentially this is really a book about school choice and why people fight. Both for and against school choice. And this is another book I talked to your husband about, because I think you guys bought it at the same time I did. We bought it at the same time, but your husband is the first of us to actually have read it.
He listened to it like within a couple days, and then said, "Oh, I know a book you would love to read, and it's this one."
Right.
And I started to listen to it too, and the data and the research that he did is the first couple chapters.
Yes.
And then it was due back to the library. So I didn't get to finish it, and I want to, because I actually reference it a lot.
Right.
And as just, I love who it's written by. I love that he basically leveled the variables, making sure that the charter schools that he researched were met in the same building as traditional schools. So there's no confounding variables with neighborhood and building and things like that. And so he goes into all that, and then I didn't get to the rest of it. So I'm excited to get to the rest of it, and I'd love to actually do a whole discussion about it at some point.
I actually couldn't read it when I first got it, and this is what I talked to your husband about, because then we were at the Coop Christmas party, and he and I ended up in this, not a heated, we weren't on the same side, but we were just both feeling, like furious about how these things happen. But anyway, I didn't read it because I just felt so anxious about it, because it's so infuriating to see the fight against such hard evidence that charter schools really do so well for so many people.
Yeah.
And we're not talking the homeschool charters that we're a part of. I'm talking
in
inner
general,
city charter schools, any charter school that offers a choice within the public school
for
system.
the vulnerable populations.
Yeah, particularly.
And so to take that, so anyways, we should definitely both read it and to have a whole discussion about it.
Yes, we will. So I love this one, and actually, I think this week there's a big bill in California going up, AB 1316, and that's potentially threatening charter schools in California.
Well, I left phone messages and wrote letters, and I did get a response from an assemblywoman.
Okay.
From District 75, and said she totally believes in school choice, and she really appreciates my my feedback about it.
And did she say how she was voting?
No, it was probably like what's it called? A template that she sends to,
everybody.
Yeah, but she says she totally believes in school choice, and
we'll see how she
I said
votes.
School choice will be basically eliminated if they
for sure
pass that bill.
100%.
Yeah. So check out that bill. It's in California.
It's in California, and by the time this episode airs, it will have passed or not.
Yeah.
So,
but it's important to know that if these things are happening in other states, they could come to yours.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a very timely book as well. All right. What's your third book, Mandy?
All right. So my third book is called Mean Girls, Facing Your Beauty Turned Beast.
Oh.
And it's written by Haley DeMarco.
Okay.
She's a Christian author as well.
Oh.
And this book was given to me by my friend whose daughter is now like 22 years old and a wonderful girl and a wonderful mom. And she said she walked her daughter through this book as well. Oh. But I'm reading it for me.
Right.
So that I have the content, like I was just mentioning. I want the content. So basically, this book explains why girls are cruel and shows you how to deal with them and stop the cycle of mean.
Okay.
And there's these 4 bullets. The book will show you why some girls treat you the way they do, what God thinks about your mean girl, why hanging out with a mean girl is bad for you, and how to move on and find new, more healthy relationships. So I don't know if there's any mean girls in our kids' lives.
Right.
But they will encounter them.
Sure.
We know that from being female ourselves. And who knows, maybe they're the mean girl. There's
inadvertently, those tendencies absolutely have the opportunity to come out once in a while.
Right. And I was just looking through here, and it seems like there's a lot of helpful ideas of how to face, of how to respond to someone when they're being mean to you.
Sure.
So this goes with the social-emotional emphasis that I have for this next school year. Mm-hmm. So I thought I might as well equip myself and take notes on it, and then I can address it this year and then also be ready to address it for future years.
Yeah.
If it were to come up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. My third and final book is called Awaking Wonder, Opening Your Child's Heart to the Beauty of Learning. I have it because it's my Kindle version, so it's here on my iPhone. It's a beautiful cover, and it's by Sally Clarkson, who is well known in the homeschool community. She speaks a lot with the Wild and Free homeschool group, and she's Christian. She's raised several children and homeschooled them, and just has a lot of wisdom and such a beautiful outlook on homeschooling and such joy in it. I love following her Instagram. She's just super fun, and she just.
What's her handle or?
I'm pretty sure it's at Sally Clarkson. Yeah, so we'll make sure we put that in our show notes for you. But I'm really excited to learn this or to read this one, just because it just sort of, we all end up in our own echo chambers, right?
Yeah.
We talk about that. But I really want to just be able to hold on to making sure that the education is based on the beauty of learning. And so I love that that's a part of her title, a part of the title. And just really kind of seeing how I can keep using that to inspire my children to learn, not teach them to learn.
Yeah.
So that's my hope with reading that one. I don't know much more about it other than I'm excited to read it. It's on my list.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I have that book. Sometimes I buy a whole bunch of these books I see on Instagram, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to get back to it. And then I go on my shelf and I forget I even have it.
I found it because she was running a special on it. And I think I saw it on her Instagram. She was promoting a new book and then ran a special for 99 cents for the Kindle version. And I said, done. Take it. So now I have it, which means I can go through it leisurely and highlight and do all I need to do with it.
How fun.
Yeah. All right, so those are our summer reading books, and I'm sure there'll be more, and I'm wondering how far we'll get through them.
I know.
There's some lofty goals here, but we are going to segue into our segment, the Coop Q&A, where we answer your questions. So today's question is, how do you organize all of your homeschooling supplies, like paper and pens and paints?
Okay, well, I'll go.
Yeah.
I have these carts, you see them all over Instagram.
Yeah, so popular right now.
They have the little the 4 caster wheels. I got 2 white ones. And they have each tray has different things, different types of paper, different, one tray, one of the levels in the cart has a place to put the scissors and the glue, kind of those little caddies. Yeah. And the caddy fits right in there. And that comes up higher than the edges of the tray.
Oh, perfect.
For that cart. So the scissors and the glue and the tape and the stapler are all there. And then on the top, I'm looking at them now, I have the colored, a bin of colored pencils, a bin of Sharpies, another caddy that has a bunch of stuff. And they'll pick up the caddy, or they pick up the little bowl or cup of pens or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they'll put them back when they're done.
Perfect.
Or I can wheel over the whole cart.
Yep.
To where they're sitting in this room at least. And yeah, it's fun. It's messy, but it's all right there. At least they know where to go.
Yeah. In my house, I have the IKEA cube storage. So, in my homeschool room, I have, like a 4x5, I think. So I have 5 cubes across and 4 tall, and the lower 2 across. I have the actual bins. And so in there, that's where I keep the paints, the office supplies. So each bin's a little bit different in what I have there. I started doing, I did aluminum cans, and then I put chalk paint stickers on the cans and labeled them. So I literally keep our cute pens in there and pencils, and keep those kind of organized on the different shelves so that they're visible and we see them. And then paper, I have on a shelf next to the cubes, I have my printer, and then I actually have paper sorters. So I have paper sorters for the different paper for the printers, the cardstock, and all of that. And then in the shelving, I have their different art pads and notebooks and all the things. And so I like them all to be available. So like with yours, with the carts, everything's just there.
Right.
It's ready. It's available for them. They know where it goes when they're done. Everything has a place. And then I like the bins because not everything gets put away nicely every time. The bins slide right in, and I don't have to see it.
Yeah. I do keep our paints in a plastic container in a closet that's in our schoolroom, and with the paintbrushes, and I keep them up high because that's the one thing I don't want them to get to the acrylic paints. The watercolor paints are totally accessible in the cart with the watercolor brushes, but the acrylic paint, that's probably the only thing I make inaccessible to them.
Yeah, that's good. Well, that's an easy answer, and we'll share more about our homeschool spaces with you as well in our show notes, so you can check out what our spaces look like.
Yeah, we have a whole podcast about it, actually. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you have a question for us, you can email mamahens@thecoophomeschool.com.
Yep. Or you can check out our podcast page at the website at thecoophomeschool.com.
Fun. All right. So, and we'd love to hear about books you're reading this summer,
let us know what we're missing.
Yeah. If you have a good, content builder or homeschooling book or whatever, we'd love to know about it.
Any secret Outlander fans out there? Let me know.
Thanks for listening. We love your support. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast, leave a rating and review to let us know how we're doing, and share our podcast with your friends who need a little community, humility, and joyful fun in homeschooling.